Sitting in the oncology ward at Memorial Hospital, watching my mother struggle with her breathing tube, I thought I'd hit rock bottom. Then my wife Beth walked in wearing a silk tracksuit that probably cost more than most people's rent, checked her Rolex and said, "Stop being so depressing, Jimmy. You're ruining my Vegas weekend vibe." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not broke, snapped, like a power line in a storm, crackling with dangerous energy. "Mom's having a rough night," I said, keeping my voice level. "Maybe you could sit with her for 5 minutes." Beth rolled her eyes and pulled out her phone. "I've got a flight in 3 hours. Margot's already at the airport." She started typing, her manicured nails clicking against the screen. "Besides, the nurses handle all this medical stuff. That's what we pay them for." My mother opened her eyes and looked at Beth with the kind of expression reserved for something you'd scrape off your shoe. Even through the medication haze, Mom could spot fake from a mile away. "I'll be back tomorrow, Mrs. Parish," Beth said, without looking up from her phone. "Try to feel better." Mom squeezed my hand. In that squeeze was 40 years of marriage wisdom, 20 years of watching Beth climb the social ladder, and a lifetime of knowing when someone was playing games with her son. I walked Beth to the parking garage, my mind racing. For 15 years, I'd built Parish Electrical from nothing into something. Started in my garage with a borrowed truck and a toolbox my father left me. Now we had 12 employees, 3 service trucks, and contracts with half the commercial buildings in town. Beth used to be proud of that, used to brag about her blue-collar husband who could fix anything. Now she spent her days at the country club, planning charity galas she never actually worked at, and complaining that we lived in the wrong neighborhood, despite our 4-bedroom house being perfectly fine. "Don't wait up," she said, climbing into her BMW. "Margot booked us the penthouse suite at the Bellagio." "Have fun," I said. But I was already thinking about the credit card statements I'd been ignoring, the late nights she'd been working, and the way my brother John had been hanging around the house more often lately. After she drove away, I sat in my truck for 20 minutes, staring at my phone. 3 missed calls from John, 2 text messages from Beth's sister asking if everything was okay at home, and 1 notification from our bank about unusual account activity. I drove home to our empty house. Both girls were at sleepovers, and did something I'd never done before. I opened Beth's laptop. Her email was still logged in. The first message made my stomach twist. The second one made my hands shake. By the 5th one, I was laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because the alternative was putting my fist through the wall. The messages weren't just from Margot about Vegas. They were from John, my brother John. Detailed messages about hotel rooms and weekend getaways and how Jimmy's always at the hospital anyway. But the real kick in the teeth was the thread about money. My money. Beth had been moving funds from our business account into something called a fun account. $15,000 over the past 6 months. Money I'd been working 60-hour weeks to earn. The last message was from yesterday. "Can't wait for Vegas, baby. Jimmy will never figure it out. He's too busy playing the devoted son." I closed the laptop and walked to the kitchen. Poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat at the table where we used to eat dinner as a family, where Beth used to ask about my day and actually listen to the answer. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My phone buzzed. Text from Beth. "Plane delayed. Don't forget to visit your mother tomorrow. Try not to be so gloomy." I stared at that message for a long time. Then, I opened my banking app and did something that felt better than the bourbon. I canceled every credit card in Beth's name, froze our joint accounts, changed the passwords on everything from Netflix to our home security system. Then I drove to the office, pulled out the spare keys to John's work truck, and removed his company gas card from the visor. By the time I got home, my phone was ringing. Beth's number. "Jimmy? What the hell?" My card got declined at the airport bar. That's weird, I said, settling into my recliner. Maybe call the bank. I did call the bank. They said the account holder requested a freeze on all cards. Huh? Wonder why someone would do that. Silence. Then, Jimmy, if this is some kind of joke. No joke, Beth. Just protecting our assets. You understand? I'm stuck at the airport. Margot's already through security. That's unfortunate. Maybe take a taxi home. We should talk. A taxi? From the airport? That's $40. Better start walking then. I hung up and poured another bourbon. Outside, it started to rain. Perfect weather for staying in and reading email threads about what a fool your wife thinks you are. My phone rang 6 more times. I let it go to voicemail. The house felt different with Beth gone and the girls at friends' houses. Quieter, like I could finally think clearly for the first time in months. I walked upstairs to our bedroom and opened Beth's closet. Designer dresses, shoes that cost more than most people's car payments, handbags with price tags I'd never bothered to look at before. In the back, behind a row of coats, I found a small suitcase. Inside were things that didn't belong in a married woman's luggage. Things that suggested Vegas wasn't just about gambling and shows. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Then I repacked the suitcase exactly as I'd found it and went back downstairs. At midnight, my phone buzzed with a text. I'm at Mom's house. We're talking tomorrow. I typed back, looking forward to it. But I wasn't planning to wait for tomorrow. I woke up at 5 a.m. and drove to the office. Parish Electrical occupied a converted warehouse on the industrial side of town, nothing fancy but functional. My father would have been proud of what we'd built here. Mary, our office manager, was already at her desk with coffee and the day's work orders. You're here early, she said. Everything okay? Just couldn't sleep. Hey, Mary, I need you to do me a favor. Remove John from all company accounts. Credit cards, fuel cards, everything. She looked up from her computer. Is John leaving the company? We're having some partnership discussions. Just want to clean up the paperwork. Mary had worked for us since the beginning. She knew when to ask questions and when to just handle business. This was a handling business moment. I'll take care of it, she said. Should I prepare new signature cards for the bank? Not yet. Let's see how the discussions go. I spent the morning reviewing contracts and trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting to the email thread on Beth's laptop. 15 years of marriage reduced to casual jokes about how clueless I was. Around noon, John showed up. He looked like he'd been up all night, which he probably had. Beth's mom lived in a tiny apartment across town, and the couch wasn't made for 6'2" guys with bad backs. We need to talk, he said, closing my office door. I figured we might. John sat down across from my desk. We looked alike. Same dark hair, same stubborn jawline, same calloused hands from years of electrical work. But John had always been the charmer, the one who could talk his way out of trouble. I was the one who cleaned up the messes afterward. Beth told me what you did with the credit cards. What I did? That's interesting phrasing. Come on, Jimmy, you're upset. I get it. But freezing her out at the airport was harsh. I leaned back in my chair and studied my brother's face. Tell me something, John. How long? How long what? Don't insult my intelligence. I've seen the messages. His face went pale. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. It's not what you think, he said. It's exactly what I think. The question is how long you've been playing me for a fool. John stood up and started pacing. Look, things just happened. Beth was lonely. You were always working or at the hospital with Mom. She needed someone to talk to. And you were happy to help with the talking. It wasn't planned. We didn't mean for it to happen. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a printed copy of one of their email exchanges, the one where Beth described what she wanted to do to him in Vegas, in detail. This doesn't sound very accidental, John. He sat back down heavily. How long have you known? Does it matter? Beth wants to work things out. She made a mistake, but she loves you. I laughed. Actually laughed. She loves me? Is that why she's been stealing money from our business account to fund her fun weekends? She wasn't stealing. It's your money, too. My money. From my business. That I built while she played tennis and planned parties. John's face hardened. Your business? I'm a partner too, Jimmy. Are you? Because partners don't usually sleep with each other's wives. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up and walked to the window overlooking our service bay. 3 trucks, 2 with Parish electrical logos. You want to talk about fair? I gave you a job when you got laid off from the plant. Made you a partner when you couldn't make your mortgage payments. Covered for you when you showed up late or hungover or both. I've worked hard for this company. You've worked. I'll give you that. But apparently you've been working on more than electrical systems. I turned back to face him. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Beth this ends now. Both of you are going to figure out how to be adults about this situation, and we're going to restructure our partnership agreement. What does that mean? It means I'm buying you out. John's face went red. You can't do that. Actually, I can. Check Section 12 of our partnership agreement. Moral turpitude clause. I had it added 3 years ago when you got that DUI. This is different. Is it? You violated the trust that our partnership was built on. That's exactly what the clause covers. John stood up. I won't let you destroy my life over this. I'm not destroying anything, John. You did that yourself. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Mary looked up from her desk with raised eyebrows. Everything okay, Mr. Parish? Just fine, Mary. Oh, and John won't be needing his office anymore. Can you box up his personal items? Of course. Should I mail them to his house? That would be perfect. I spent the rest of the afternoon calling our business attorney and our accountant. By 5 o'clock, I had a clear picture of exactly how much John's partnership stake was worth and how quickly I could buy him out. Then I drove home to wait for Beth. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, still wearing the silk tracksuit from yesterday. Her eyes were red, and her perfect hair looked like she'd been running her hands through it. We need to talk, she said. I'm listening. I made a mistake, a big mistake, but it's over now. I sat down across from her. Which mistake are we talking about, the affair or the stealing? I wasn't stealing. It was our money. $15,000, Beth. For what? I needed some independence, some freedom. Freedom to do what exactly? She looked down at her hands. I felt trapped, like my whole life was about your business, your mother, your schedule. So you decided to sleep with my brother. It wasn't like that. What was it like? She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. John listened to me. He made me feel interesting again. And the money? I was going to pay it back. With what? Your tennis lessons don't exactly generate income. Beth's face flushed. I contribute to this family. How? By spending money we don't have on clothes you don't need for parties that don't matter? Those parties are important for your business. Networking. My business was doing fine before you discovered the country club. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Beth reached across the table and touched my hand. Jimmy, I want to fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll be more involved in your work. Whatever you need. I looked at her hand on mine. Manicured nails, diamond ring I'd saved 6 months to buy, skin soft from never doing actual work. What I need, I said, is for you to move out. She jerked her hand back. What? You heard me. Jimmy, please, think about the girls. I am thinking about them. They don't need to see their mother treating their father like an idiot. I never treated you like an idiot. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of one of her messages to John, the one where she called me clueless and boring. Her face went white. Pack a bag, Beth. You can stay at your mother's until we figure out the next steps. This is my house, too. Actually, it's not. Check the deed. I bought this house before we got married. Your name was never added. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You're not serious. Serious. I won't leave my children. They can visit you any time, but you're not staying here. Beth stood up so fast her chair fell over. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, then turned back. This isn't over, Jimmy. Yes, it is. After she left, I sat alone in the kitchen and tried to figure out how I was supposed to feel. Angry, hurt, relieved, all of it mixed together into something I couldn't quite name. My phone rang. It was Becca, my 15-year-old. Dad? Mom called crying. She says you kicked her out. It's complicated, honey. Are you getting divorced? I don't know yet. But whatever happens, it doesn't change how much I love you and your sister. Can we come home? This sleepover is getting weird. Of course. I'll pick you both up. Driving to get my daughters, I realized that for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The house would be quiet without Beth's constant complaints and demands. The bank account would stop hemorrhaging money for things we didn't need. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Beth wasn't the type to go quietly, and John would fight the partnership buyout. They'd both try to make me look like the bad guy. Fine. If they wanted to play games, I'd learned a few rules myself. The girls took the news better than I expected. Becca, my 15-year-old, had always been sharp. She'd noticed the tension, the separate bedrooms, the way Beth and I barely talked anymore, except about schedules and bills. Is it because of Uncle John? She asked while we ate pizza on the living room floor, something Beth would never have allowed. What makes you ask that? He's been here a lot lately, and Mom gets all weird and giggly when he's around. It's gross. My 13-year-old, Brianna, was quieter about the whole thing. She'd always been closer to Beth, inherited her love of shopping and social drama. But even she seemed relieved that the constant arguing was over. Will we still see Mom? Brianna asked. Of course. This is between your mother and me. It has nothing to do with how much we both love you. What I didn't tell them was that Beth had already started her campaign to paint me as the villain. My phone had been buzzing all evening with calls from her friends, her sister, even her mother, all wanting to know my side of the story, while making it clear they'd already heard Beth's version. According to Beth's narrative, I was a controlling husband who'd trapped her in a loveless marriage and cut off her credit cards out of spite. The affair with John was a mistake that happened because I was emotionally unavailable. I let them talk, let them think they had the whole story. Monday morning, I called our business insurance company and had John removed from all policies. Then I called our suppliers and removed his authorization to make purchases. By noon, John Parish was effectively locked out of Parish Electrical. He showed up at the office around 2, furious and loud. You can't do this, Jimmy. Actually, I can. Check your partnership agreement again. I have the right to suspend your access during the buyout process. This is my livelihood. Should have thought of that before you decided to sleep with my wife. Mary and our other employees were trying to look busy, while obviously listening to every word. I didn't care. Let them hear it. Let everyone know exactly what kind of man my brother was. I'm calling a lawyer, John said. Good idea. You'll need one. After he left, I gathered the staff in the break room. I want everyone to hear this directly from me, I said. John and I are dissolving our partnership. There will be some changes, but nobody's job is at risk. If anything, we'll be expanding. What about the Westfield contract? Asked Mike, one of our senior electricians. John was the primary contact. I'll handle Westfield. John's removal won't affect any of our existing contracts. That wasn't entirely true. John had relationships with several clients, and some of them might choose to follow him if he started his own company. But I'd built Parish Electrical's reputation on quality work and fair pricing. That would speak louder than personal loyalty. Wednesday evening, Beth showed up at the house while the girls were doing homework. We need to discuss custody arrangements, she said, like she was scheduling a business meeting. The girls live here. You can see them whenever you want, as long as it doesn't disrupt their school schedule. I want them every other weekend and Wednesday nights. That's fine. She seemed surprised that I wasn't fighting her. And I'll need support payments. For what? I gave up my career to support your business. I'm entitled to maintenance. I almost laughed. What career? You worked part-time at a boutique for 6 months before we got married. I sacrificed my potential to be a wife and mother. You sacrificed nothing. You chose to spend your days at the country club instead of contributing to our household income. Those social connections helped your business. Name one contract I got through your social connections. She couldn't, because there weren't any. Beth's country club friends hired big electrical contractors from the city, not local guys like me. I'm filing for divorce, she said, and I'm asking for half of everything. Good luck with that. Jimmy, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm not making anything hard. You want a divorce? File for divorce. You want half my business? Prove you earned it. After she left, I spent the evening researching divorce attorneys. Beth would probably hire someone expensive from downtown, someone who specialized in taking successful men for everything they were worth. I needed someone smarter. I found him in Tom Morrison, Connie's husband. My sister had married a CPA who'd gone to law school at night and specialized in small business law. He wasn't a divorce attorney, but he understood business valuations and asset protection. Jimmy, I can't represent you, Tom said when I called him. Conflict of interest. Connie and I are too close to the situation. I'm not asking you to represent me. I'm asking for advice. What kind of advice? The kind that keeps Beth from taking half my business. Tom was quiet for a moment. Meet me for coffee tomorrow, and bring your partnership agreement and your marriage certificate. Thursday morning, Tom laid out my options over coffee and donuts at a diner across town. The good news is, the business was established before your marriage, and Beth's name isn't on any of the incorporation documents, he said. The bad news is 15 years of marriage means she can claim the business grew in value due to her contributions as a wife and mother. What contributions? That's what you'll need to prove. Document everything. Her spending, her activities, her actual involvement in business operations. I can do that. The John situation actually helps you. Adultery isn't grounds for divorce in this state anymore, but it does affect spousal support calculations. How so? Hard to claim you were a devoted wife entitled to lifetime support when you were sleeping with your husband's brother. I spent the weekend going through financial records, printing bank statements, documenting every country club payment, every shopping spree, every expensive dinner Beth had charged to our accounts. The picture that emerged was clear. Beth Parish was a woman who'd spent 15 years spending money she hadn't earned while contributing nothing to the business that generated that money. Monday morning, I walked into the office feeling like I had a plan for the first time since this whole mess started. Mary handed me a stack of messages. Beth called 6 times. She says it's urgent. Did she say what about? Something about the house locks being changed. I smiled. Over the weekend, I'd had new locks installed and a security system upgraded. Beth's key no longer worked, and she'd need a code to get inside. My phone rang. Beth's number. Jimmy, I can't get into the house. That's because you don't live there anymore. I need to get some of my things. Make a list. I'll have the girls pack a bag for you. I want to get them myself. Not happening. You can't keep me out of my own house. It's not your house, Beth. We've been over this. She hung up on me. An hour later, a police officer showed up at the office. Mr. Parish, I'm Officer Martinez. Your wife asked us to do a welfare check. She's concerned about your mental state. My mental state is fine, officer. My wife and I are separated. She's trying to use you to harass me. She says you've changed the locks and won't let her see her children. I pulled out my phone and showed him the text messages between Beth and the girls from that morning. As you can see, she's in regular contact with our daughters. They're staying with her tonight, in fact. Officer Martinez looked at the messages and nodded. Okay, Mr. Parish. Just wanted to make sure everything was on the up and up. It is, but I appreciate you checking. After he left, I realized Beth was escalating. The crying and pleading phase was over. Now came the phase where she'd try to make my life as difficult as possible. Fine, two could play that game. I spent my lunch break at the country club, where I had a very public conversation with the club manager about canceling Beth's membership. Made sure several of her tennis friends overheard the discussion about financial restructuring due to marital difficulties. By evening, my phone was buzzing with messages from Beth's friends, all wanting to know if the rumors were true. I didn't respond to any of them, which probably told them everything they needed to know. Beth called around 9. You embarrassed me at the club today. I canceled a membership we can no longer afford. Nothing embarrassing about being financially responsible. Those people are my friends. Those people are social climbers who'll drop you the minute your credit cards stop working. You're trying to ruin my reputation. I'm trying to clean up the financial mess you created. I hate you. I know. But the truth was, I was starting to enjoy this. For 15 years, I'd been the accommodating husband, the provider who worked long hours so Beth could live the lifestyle she wanted. Now I was setting the rules, and she was scrambling to keep up. It felt good, better than good. It felt like power. 2 weeks later, Beth made her first real mistake. She showed up at Brianna's school soccer game with John. I was sitting in the bleachers with other parents, cheering for Brianna's team when I saw them walking across the field together. Beth in a sundress that probably cost more than most people's weekly salary, John in khakis and a polo shirt, looking like they were on a date. The other parents noticed too. I could feel their eyes shifting between Beth and John, then back to me. Whispered conversations started and stopped as they tried to figure out what they were seeing. Is that your brother with Beth? Asked Carol Henderson, whose daughter played midfielder. Looks like it, I said, keeping my voice neutral. That's awkward. Yep. Beth and John found seats on the opposite side of the field, but their presence cast a shadow over the whole game. Brianna kept looking over at them, clearly confused about why her mother and uncle were sitting together while her father sat alone. After the game, Brianna ran over to me instead of to Beth. That small gesture, my daughter choosing sides, hit me harder than I'd expected. Good game, kiddo, I said, hugging her. Thanks, Dad. Are you okay? I'm fine. Why? She glanced over at Beth and John, who were walking toward us. This is weird. Yeah, it is. Beth approached with a bright, fake smile. Great game, honey. John and I thought we'd take you and Becca out for ice cream. I'm going home with Dad, Brianna said. But we made plans. I want to go home. John stepped forward. Hey, Bree. Your mom's been looking forward to spending time with you. Brianna looked at him with the kind of direct stare that only teenagers can manage. Why are you here with my mom? The question hung in the air like smoke. Other parents were still within earshot, pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. John and I are friends, Beth said quickly. He's helping me through a difficult time. Helping how? Brianna asked. I almost felt sorry for Beth. Almost. We should discuss this at home, I said. Brianna, get your gear, we're leaving. As we walked to my truck, I could hear Beth and John having a heated conversation behind us. By the time I'd loaded Brianna's soccer bag, they were gone. Dad, Brianna said as we drove home, are Mom and Uncle John together? I'd been dreading this conversation, but my daughter deserved honesty. Yes, I said. They are. That's gross. It's complicated. It's gross and it's wrong. He's your brother. I know. Are you sad? I thought about that question. Was I sad? Angry? Certainly. Betrayed? Absolutely. But sad? I'm disappointed, I said finally. In both of them. I don't want to see Uncle John anymore. You don't have to. That evening, Beth called to scream at me for turning the children against her. I let her vent for 5 minutes before hanging up. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I called Margot Ellis, Beth's best friend, and the woman who'd been planning the Vegas trip. Margot was a lawyer at a downtown firm, the kind of sharp, ambitious woman who collected secrets like other people collected shoes. "Jimmy," she said when she answered, "I was wondering when you'd call. We need to talk." I imagine we do. We met at a coffee shop near her office. Margot looked exactly like what she was, a successful attorney who dressed to intimidate, power suit, expensive briefcase, the kind of confidence that came from winning arguments for a living. "Beth's been staying with me," she said without preamble. "She's a mess." "I'm sure she is." "You've been pretty harsh, Jimmy, cutting off her credit cards, changing the locks, canceling the country club membership. She's been sleeping with my brother and stealing from my business account. I think I've been remarkably restrained." Margot studied my face. "You're different than I expected." "How so?" "Beth always described you as passive, easygoing. This isn't passive. People change. Yes, they do." She leaned forward. "What do you want, Jimmy?" "I want to know who's been giving Beth legal advice." "Why would you think someone's been giving her legal advice?" "Because she knew exactly which buttons to push with the police welfare check. She knew to establish a paper trail of me being controlling and unstable. That's not Beth's natural thinking. She's got someone coaching her." Margot's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "And you think it's me?" "I think you're the smartest person in Beth's social circle. I think you've been planning this divorce strategy from the beginning." "That's quite an accusation." "It's not an accusation, it's an observation." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Margot smiled and I realized I'd just walked into a trap. "You're right," she said. "I have been giving Beth advice, and you want to know why?" "I'm listening." "Because 3 years ago, you fired me." The coffee shop suddenly felt very quiet. I remembered the incident. Margot had done some contract work for Parish Electrical, and I'd terminated the arrangement when I found out she was overcharging for simple document reviews. "You were billing me $300 an hour for work a paralegal could do for $50. I was providing expert legal services. You were taking advantage of a small business owner who didn't know better. And now you're paying for that decision." The pieces clicked into place. The Vegas trip, the coaching on legal strategy, the way Beth had suddenly become sophisticated about asset protection and custody arrangements. "You've been planning this," I said. "I've been waiting for the right opportunity. Beth's affair with John was just the opening I needed." "To do what?" "To destroy you, Jimmy. Systematically and completely." Margot opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Divorce papers," she said. "Beth's filing tomorrow. She's asking for half your business, full custody of the children, the house, and $5,000 a month in spousal support." "She won't get it." "Won't she? Let's see. 15-year marriage, 2 minor children, wife who sacrificed her career for family. Husband, who's recently become controlling and vindictive, cutting off financial support, and changing locks to keep her away from her children. She was stealing money and sleeping with my brother. Alleged affair, and the money came from joint accounts she had every right to access." I felt the walls closing in. Margot had been playing chess while I'd been playing checkers. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want to watch you lose everything, the same way you cost me that contract." "That contract was worth maybe $5,000. It was worth a lot more than that. Parish Electrical was going to be my entry into the commercial market. Other small businesses would have followed. You cost me hundreds of thousands in potential revenue." "So you decided to destroy my marriage?" "I decided to give Beth better options. The affair with John was her idea. I just helped her understand how to leverage it." Margot stood up and smoothed her skirt. See you in court, Jimmy. After she left, I sat alone at the coffee table, staring at the divorce papers. Everything I'd built, my business, my family, my reputation, was about to be fed into the legal system and picked apart by people who saw it all as just another case to win. But as I read through Margot's demands, I realized she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd told me the truth about her motivations, and now I knew exactly who I was really fighting. The annual Parish family reunion was scheduled for the third Saturday in July, same as always. Mom had been planning it from her hospital bed, determined to have one more gathering before her treatments made her too weak to host. Every year, we rented the pavilion at Riverside Park, and every year the same 40-odd relatives showed up to eat barbecue and catch up on gossip. This year would be different, though. This year, everyone would get a front-row seat to the destruction of Beth Parish. I spent 2 weeks preparing, not for potato salad and volleyball games, but for the most public, devastating revelation of truth our small town had ever witnessed. First, I hired a private investigator, not for the affair, which I already had documented, but for Margot's background. What I found was better than I'd hoped. Margot Ellis had been disbarred in Illinois before moving here. Something about mishandling client funds and falsifying documents. She'd rebuilt her career carefully, but the records were still there for anyone who knew where to look. Second, I had a conversation with Tom Morrison about business valuations and asset protection. Tom couldn't represent me directly, but he could point me towards strategies that would make Beth's financial demands impossible to fulfill. The key, Tom explained over coffee, is demonstrating that the business value is tied to your personal skills and relationships, not transferable assets. If you can show that Parish Electrical would collapse without you specifically, then Beth can't claim half of something that wouldn't exist without your direct involvement. How do I prove that? Client testimonials, contract language that specifies you personally, evidence that your technical expertise is what drives the business success. I spent the week before the reunion collecting exactly that evidence. Letters from clients praising my work specifically, contracts that required my personal approval, documentation showing that I handled all the technical training and quality control. But the real weapon in my arsenal was something Margot had given me herself, proof that she'd been orchestrating Beth's legal strategy as revenge for a business dispute. The morning of the reunion, I loaded my truck with more than just folding chairs and coolers. I brought a portable speaker system, a laptop, and a folder full of documents that would change everything. Beth showed up with John, of course. They'd apparently decided that flaunting their relationship at a family gathering was somehow appropriate. Beth wore a white sundress that made her look like she was attending a garden party instead of a barbecue. John looked uncomfortable, which was the first smart thing I'd seen from him in months. My daughters were there, along with Connie and Tom, my cousins from Ohio, Mom's sister and her family, and about 30 other relatives who'd been hearing whispers about the Parish family drama for weeks. Mom was in a wheelchair, but she was alert and smiling. The medication was working, and she'd insisted on coming despite her doctor's concerns. "This might be my last one," she'd told me. "I want to see my whole family together." I waited until after lunch, when everyone was relaxed and gathered around the pavilion. Then I stood up and tapped my beer bottle with a fork. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The conversations died down. 40 faces turned toward me, including Beth's increasingly nervous expression. "I want to thank everyone for coming today. As most of you know, it's been a difficult year for our family. Mom's been sick, and Beth and I are getting divorced." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't typical reunion conversation. I thought this would be a good opportunity to clear the air about some things, to make sure everyone understands exactly what's been happening. Beth stood up. "Jimmy, this isn't the place." "Sit down, Beth." Something in my voice made her sit. I opened my laptop and connected it to the speaker system. For those who don't know, Beth's been having an affair with my brother John for the past 6 months. More murmurs, louder now. John's face went red. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is who's been coaching her through the divorce process. I clicked a button, and Margot's voice filled the pavilion through the speakers. I want to watch you lose everything the same way you cost me that contract. I decided to give Beth better options. The affair with John was her idea. I just helped her understand how to leverage it. The recording was from our coffee shop conversation. I'd used my phone to capture everything after Margot revealed her true motivations. The pavilion erupted. Family members started talking all at once, their voices rising in shock and anger. Beth's face went white. "Jimmy, you can't," she started. I held up my hand for silence and got it. There's more. I pulled out the folder of documents and began reading from Margot's disciplinary records in Illinois. Disbarment for client fund mishandling, falsified documents, a pattern of using personal relationships to gain access to confidential information. So Beth's legal advisor, I continued, is a disbarred lawyer who's been using my wife to get revenge on me for a business dispute. Beth was crying now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage and humiliation. But wait, there's more. I pulled out the bank statements showing Beth's spending patterns, the credit card bills for clothes and trips and country club fees, $15,000 in 6 months on what she'd called independence. And here's my personal favorite, I said, pulling out printed copies of Beth's text messages to her sister, messages I'd retrieved from our shared family phone plan, messages where she called me boring and clueless, and described how easy it was to hide money from someone too stupid to check the bank statements. The pavilion was silent now. Even the children had stopped playing to listen. I looked directly at Beth. "You wanted a divorce? You've got one. You wanted half my business? Good luck proving you contributed anything to its success. You wanted to destroy my reputation? Let's see how yours holds up." Beth stood up, swaying slightly. "This is all lies. Jimmy's having some kind of breakdown. Play the recording again," called out my cousin Mike. I did. Margot's voice filled the air again, coldly explaining her plan to destroy my life as revenge for a business dispute. When it finished, Beth looked around the pavilion at 40 family members who were all staring at her with expressions ranging from disgust to pity. "I'm leaving," she announced. "Good idea," said my mother from her wheelchair. It was the first time she'd spoken all day, and her voice carried clearly across the pavilion. "And take that worthless son of mine with you." John, who'd been sitting silently through the entire presentation, finally stood up. "Mom, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You betrayed your brother. You betrayed this family. Get out of my sight." Beth and John left together, walking quickly across the park toward John's truck, while 40 family members watched them go. After they drove away, the pavilion stayed quiet for a long moment. Then my cousin Sarah started clapping. Others joined in until the whole family was applauding. "That," said Tom Morrison, "was the most thorough character assassination I've ever witnessed." "She had it coming," said Connie. Mom wheeled her chair over to where I was standing. "I'm proud of you, Jimmy. Your father would have been proud too." "Thanks, Mom." "But what happens now?" I looked out across the park, where families were playing volleyball and grilling burgers and enjoying their Saturday afternoon. Normal families with normal problems. "Now I go back to work," I said. "I rebuild my business, raise my daughters, and move on with my life. And Beth?" I smiled. "Beth's going to discover that reputation matters in a small town, and hers is finished." The reunion continued for another 3 hours, but the mood had changed. Instead of awkward whispers about the Parish family drama, there were open conversations about Beth's betrayal and John's stupidity. By the time everyone went home, the story would spread through town like electricity through a wire. Beth would wake up Monday morning to find that everyone knew exactly who she was and what she'd done. Her country club friends would distance themselves. Her social circle would evaporate. Her chances of finding a good divorce lawyer would disappear once word got out about her association with a disbarred attorney. As for John, he'd discover that small-town electrical contractors don't get many second chances. His reputation was destroyed, and in a business built on trust and relationships, that was a sentence worse than bankruptcy. I packed up my laptop and speakers, loaded Mom's wheelchair into my truck, and drove home to a house that finally felt peaceful. The girls were spending the night at Connie's house, giving me the evening to myself. I sat on my back porch with a beer and watched the sun set over the neighborhood I'd worked so hard to afford. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You destroyed my life." I assumed it was from Beth, but when I looked closer, I realized it was from Margot. I typed back, "You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it." No response. An hour later, another text. This one definitely from Beth. "I hope you're happy." I considered various responses, then settled on the truth. I am. And for the first time in months, that was actually true. The house was quiet, my business was secure, my daughters knew exactly who their parents really were, and the people who'd tried to destroy me had destroyed themselves instead. Tomorrow, I'd start the process of buying John out of the business. Next week, I'd meet with a divorce attorney to finalize the proceedings that Beth had started. Next month, I'd probably have to testify about Margot's illegal practice of law, but tonight, I was going to sit on my porch and enjoy the silence. They'd wanted to make me the villain in their story. Instead, I'd written my own ending.